Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Just going to start sharing screens now. Thank you all for joining us today. 1 second. While folks are joining, you want to let us know where you're joining from. You want to add in the chat your name, your organization, where you're joining from. We have a lot of folks joining. We're very excited to get started today. Oops, I'm at the end of the presentation. Here we go. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to drop in the chat your name, your organization, where you're joining from. We have an amazing panel lined up today. Excited to see everyone joining. Have people from Atlanta, from Jordan, Colombia, the UK. Welcome, everybody. We'll give everyone a few more minutes to join, and then we'll get started. Peru, Uganda, welcome, everyone. Hello. Hello. As you're joining, go ahead and add where you're joining us from. And I think we'll go ahead and just get started. There's a lot to talk about today and a lot of people joining. So thank you everyone for joining us today for this amazing webinar, AI in Action, How Nonprofits Are Transforming Humanitarian Impact with ServiceNow, presented in partnership with Save the Children. My name is Erin, and I am on the NetHope team, and I'm the Senior Manager for Philanthropic Partnerships for Partner Programs and Sponsorship. And just a few housekeeping slides and points before we get started. So the webinar today is being recorded and it will be available online on nethope.org within a few days. So you'll be able to see that recording. NetHope does not allow any AI note takers or recordings to be done during this. So we'll be, my colleague Nishina and I will be kind of going through and kicking out any note takers we see. And then no screenshots are permitted without NetHope's permission. We are really excited. As we said, there's a lot of folks joining us today. So, please drop any questions that you have in the Q&A function or in the public chat. We have lots of folks from the ServiceNow team and from Save the Children, the Save the Children team, who will be helping address any of those questions. They'll be monitoring both those to respond, hopefully live when those questions are being asked. We do want to note, this is a space for honest, ongoing dialogue. So we ask that everyone keep it honest and safe and respectful for organizations and individuals. We want to make sure that we're having a lively but respectful conversation. As I said, please go ahead and drop your name and your organization and where you're joining from in the chat. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chuck.
Thank you, Erin. Hi, everyone. So my name is Chuck Conser. I lead the SC organization for EMEA, UK, Europe, Middle East, and Africa for ServiceNow.org. Today, I'm also joined by Stephen Silverman, who is with Save the Children UK, and we're going to have a discussion with him about how they're positioning AI for Save the Children. And then as well, Jan Phillips Edlung, who is part of the .org team, is going to show us what innovation looks like and how he's working with some of our customers. So AI is interesting, and it's changing the landscape as we know it. I'm sure you've all heard so much about AI. It's constantly everywhere. What's interesting about AI, though, is the intent and the way that we look at implementing it. It's not necessarily always about AI, but why and where. The difference is really the speed and scale and autonomy at which AI is needed. We see a lot of leaders running towards AI without a plan. It seems bold, but oftentimes it creates chaos and poor outcomes. We wouldn't just hire someone without intent, and AI really should be viewed the same way. What we're seeing is 62% of nonprofits view AI as a driving factor towards mission impact. Yet without a plan, AI can become complicated and sometimes not drive the efficiency gains that they're looking to see. So as we look across technology in the landscape, most of these items should look pretty familiar to you. We've seen technology evolve through the ages, and most of these items are used in your day-to-day. The recurring theme about most of this technology is that it doesn't remove responsibility. It simply simplifies the effort. Innovation gives us back time and allows us to make higher value decisions and decide where we want to apply that type of technology. It's never adopted randomly. It always introduces intent with boundaries and then the understanding of where that technology is going to take us. AI should follow that same exact principle. And this is really what we're here to talk about today. As you're looking at your AI journey, where that's taking you, and how you start to plan for that. As I talked about earlier, what's really has changed is the speed and scale and the autonomy at which it's changing. So it's really about keeping up with AI in the market. So as we look at some of these headlines, it's quite interesting. What we're finding is that leaders, as they start to adopt AI, they're not seeing the same outcomes that they would have anticipated. 53% of the industries are saying that it's a greater risk, especially when it applies to ethics. 23% of those leaders are saying that they're ready for AI, that their change management and their risk management is able to adhere to it. But what we're seeing with nonprofits is that 5% of nonprofits are really adopting an approach to AI. But what's really interesting is of that 5%, those that have planned for AI are seeing efficiency gains of 157% time over time. The biggest piece is as we're simplifying the endpoints and starting to address AI, it's really the consumption and the mission point. This is where I see nonprofits different. So as we start to plan for those outcomes, not novelty, it's really about determining those efforts. We should start to understand what types of efforts we're intent for and what we're trying to address. Those could be things like what types of problems are we solving for? What effort is it removing? And then should we keep human intervention in place as we're moving through those processes? I like to say no one ever buys a robotic vacuum and says, let's see what chaos it creates. This is really the same application and mindset that we should have as we're starting to look across the AI landscape and plan for that journey. So what does AI look like? Whether you've started in scripted workflows or RPA workflows, or whether you joined AI at the point of machine learning and natural language understanding, it's really starting to understand where you fit. As I've said, it's moving quite fast. So as we're looking at AI assist for workflows and generative AI, we start to plan for what the intent is and where that's needed. Agentic workflows has come about within the last year, and we're starting to look at agents as side-by-side workers, augmenting and multiplying our workforce. It's really about understanding where the application is and where it applies, not only to your landscape, but to the platforms and the other applications that you're using. So mission first. This really defines the outcomes as we start to look at strategy. We start to ask ourselves, what will we do with more time? What does that mean for our staff? Does it mean force multiplying? Does it mean level setting our team? As we look at donors, volunteers, and beneficiaries, what is their experience like, and where can we start to improve that as we leverage AI? These are some of the things that we're going to talk about today and that Jan Phillips is going to show. And then lastly, as I talked about earlier, where in this process do we still apply the human intervention? We want to make sure that the manual processes are feeding the mission, not pulling away from it. So we really look at this across three separate areas: sense, decide, and act. So as we look at sense, it's really about understanding the data and what that data is doing for us. Does it help us drive workflow? Does it remediate the problem? Does it force multiply our staff? And based on that data, we can start to decide. So taking that data and pulling it into analytical reports to determine where we should focus our efforts, where do we see the biggest gaps, and where can we start to, again, augment our workforce or create that better experience for our beneficiaries, donors, and volunteers. And then lastly, it's about acting on it. We want to make sure that we're applying AI in the right place. And this could come in the form of agentic AI. It could also be in the form of a chatbot, voice agents, which we'll see today, or it could be as simple as using AI to build applications. So from here, I really want to talk to Steven Silverman. They've been a customer for over 10 years with us on top of the ServiceNow platform, and they're really starting to move into their journey of AI. So with that, I want to introduce Steven Silverman, the co-director of Digital Data and Technology for Save the Children UK. Steven?
Hi, Chuck. Thank you. Yeah, as you said, I'm Stephen Silverman. I represent Save the Children UK, and I've been at Save the Children UK for almost 14 years now. So, a large part of that has been working with yourselves.
Yes, yeah, and we love the relationship that we have with you. So, Stephen, I hope you don't mind if I can kick it off. I just kind of want to set the scene here. How is the environment shaping the conversation around AI internally inside of Save the Children UK?
Yeah, and I think it's probably a good place to start as well. What's happening across nonprofits and humanitarian, especially at the moment over the last few years. If you look at the pressures the sector is under, whether it's kind of public attitudes towards nonprofits or charities changing, driven through government views, and the catastrophic impact we've had on cuts to UK aid and US aid, especially in the global South, programs that are in flight, where decisions had to be made overnight as to can these be running anymore? How do we maintain these? A lot of charities are going through structural changes as they look to reduce their operational spend, because the focus is always how do you maximize the amount of funding going towards your beneficiaries, right? So how do we get the most money to the people who need it most as quickly as possible? And then how do you balance that with preparing for the future so that you can better serve, better support those who need it in 5 or 10 years from now? Now, our approach to AI is, well, yes, we need an AI strategy, but how does AI support our organizational strategy? And our first step was to take a step back and say, well, what does the world look like in 5 years? Gen AI has been around for 3 years now, maybe 3.5 years. That's how quickly it has become mainstream. 5 years from now, who can tell at which point it will plateau? But one thing that's for sure is that our beneficiaries, the way they engage with AI is changing. Our supporters, the increased personalization they expect to see. Our employees, AI is happening. It's going to impact every part of our organization and who we support and who we work with. So you need to have a strategy for what do you do with that? Especially bearing in mind, as in the sector, we don't get the opportunity to try a big bet investment, get it wrong, try again. You have only limited funding to put into developing your platforms, your data, your processes. You need to make sure if you are going to make that investment, you get it right. So how do you find that balance, right? You can't do nothing because the world is changing and the expectations are changing, but you can't overinvest if you're not certain as to the value you're going to receive. And it's a huge challenge. Right? You said in one of your slides just now that I think 95% of companies are yet to see a return on their AI investment. That's not to say they haven't seen an increase in their revenue or they haven't seen efficiencies, but it's yet to get to that point where you have those kind of autonomous agents that drive the real value that we're trying to get to. It's still early days. So our approach is, and it's our board, our exec directors, our teams are all looking at how can AI help us do what we do? How do we become more efficient? How do we, now we are smaller in size, having gone through a restructure, how can we do the same amount of work we were doing before? How can we be our best selves in with a technology that's changing faster than we can, in some cases, keep up with it? This is our reality. You might choose a model, you might choose an LLM. 12 months from now, that might not be the best model. That might not be the best approach. So we've centered our approach very much, and I'm a people person at heart. We've centered our approach to AI around people. So the focus is very much on how do we get that? You said 20% productivity in your slide. I think we're aiming between 5 to 10 to 15%. Not everyone learns at the same pace. Not everyone can make that mindset shift to how do you augment your work? How do you work differently with a coach, with a tool that can proofread? How do you automate your processes or transform your processes? These things take time.
Yeah.
So our approach is very much a measured phase approach to building our AI literacy, making sure we're prepared for the changes that are coming ahead. And then when we're in the position to make that investment, we can be certain as to its value. But also importantly, I think we understand the amount of risk involved with that as well. If you have an organizational outcome, if you understand the risks, you know the business case, and there's a clear investment, then you do it. If you're not quite sure, then well, what does it take to get you to that point?
Yeah, and so it's interesting, and if you could touch on it just briefly, and you kind of addressed this, but was there a sense of urgency that was prompting you to start to look across? I mean, I know the macro environment plays into that, but
Yeah, and there's different facets to this because there's the fear of missing out. Everyone, go back a year ago, 2 years ago, everyone's doing AI. It's going to change everything. It's going to speed up all your processes. You need to get on this curve. I think in many ways, it's the sense is now maybe that's been overhyped, or at least the investments were maybe not the right investments, so people are now stepping back. But in terms of kind of sense of urgency, I think it's organizations are using it. You might not know they are, but are they using it? Are people using it consistently? Are they using the same tools? Do we have the ethical kind of processes or the reasonable use of AI? Is that embedded so that when people are using it, they know when to use it, and when they're submitting work, that the processes accept that maybe AI has helped augment or even create this work. So the urgency is that it's happening, and you need to get your basic controls, your governance, your guardrails in place so that you can make sure you're appropriately using it based on where you as an organization are right now.
yeah. So you've talked and touched a little bit on opportunity as well. What are you seeing the specific problem or what is the specific problem that you're hoping to solve with AI? And what made that the right place to start for you? And I know this is a little bit following on my urgency, but
And it's such a loaded question, right? And I'm sure if I go into a room and say to our tech teams who thinks AI will solve all our problems, I will get a very stern look back. So, but I think we have to be careful as to when you offer a solution, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And I think the problem we're trying to solve is how do we enable our people to be more productive, and how can we remove some of maybe the blockers that stop them from doing their best work? So there may be things that we can automate. There may be processes we can review, and you get that additional 5 or 10% productivity for that person across the organization. That adds up. That's huge. You're starting building towards that mindset shift where maybe you can go from personal productivity into transforming processes into agentic work. But I think that's not always the best metric, because often, certainly when you're trying to show the value of an investment, it comes back to efficiencies. And if you're saving an hour, 2 hours a week of someone's time, that's great for them. But organizationally, what does that mean? I think you also have to look at where there are enabling processes. So yes, maybe it saves a legal team half an hour a week in reviewing a contract or a grant agreement. But what happens if the real saving is that people were waiting 2 weeks to get access to that person or to that legal team? Just waiting to get access to that half hour of their time took 2 weeks. And now all of a sudden you can remove that because we're not removing people from process. We're shifting them further down that chain to where they add most value and where they can continue to add more value. So at that point, your whole organization starts to benefit.
Yeah. So you touched on it. I talked about it earlier, the human presence within it. We've talked about augmenting teams. As the landscape expands and we see more and more AI coming at us, every vendor, including us, is talking about it. Where do you see the human staying in control of that? And how would you approach that view as it's being exhausted, coming at all sides?
It's a really important question, and one of the things that we've pushed in our strategy is that AI is not a replacement for people. It's an augment. It helps. It assists. I mean, there's a wonderful question which we're going to know as to which point the agents appear on organizational kind of charts as to the roles they perform. But it's back to kind of my previous answer. It's how does Gen AI assist that person? How does it mean they can maximize the value that they bring at that point? So it's I just lost my train of thought one moment. So what was the question again, Chuck? I've gone down my own rabbit hole.
You went down your own rabbit hole. So
Yeah.
as you see human intervention still playing a role,
Yes.
and augmenting on that, where do you see that, and how do we make sure that we're in control of that?
Yeah. Ultimately, the AI is not creative. It's not innovative. It doesn't have context. It doesn't understand cause and effect. You need the human in the loop because ultimately the human is accountable. There is actually a wonderful question to say if you really want to review the risks of kind of AI and autonomous agents, is who is accountable for the answers that agent or robot brings? Is it the CIO? Is it the CFO? Is it the product owner? And when you start looking into the outcomes and outputs from AI and build that into your secure by design processes, actually you can make sure that you understand the risk, you get the right answers, and that you have the right controls in place to review that output, whether it's as it comes through or as you audit it, and that you have people in place at the right time. So the key decisions that need to be made, where is the human in there? And also, it's not just the decisions. So if you are publishing material, if you're issuing pictures, if you are promoting or through a campaign, it's who is the person accountable for signing off that is accurate, that is right, that it meets your values, that meets your standards. That has to sit somewhere. And that's part of the cultural change that organizations have to go through to understand that increasing amounts of work will be assisted by AI. And has that been proofread? Is that understood? Can the person who submitted it explain it and answer questions on what they produced? These are the type of things we have to build that. I've kind of heard it be described as organizational muscle. So how do you embed that way of working so AI isn't just a tool, but it is a way of working. It's just a natural part of how you work.
Love that. Love it. So when we're talking about the trust factor of AI, and you talked about the accountability of it, on the approach of it, do you involve your teams? Are they brought in to help understand and kind of trust where you're going from a Save the Children standpoint, or even from a technology standpoint? And what does that look like at that motion?
Trust is really important, and especially I think I've seen some comments on this. Often we've seen AI used purely for efficiencies or savings, which has come down to headcount. Where there's news stories, there's a reduction in entry level roles because organizations haven't yet reinvested into the value add roles that time has freed up. So we have to be really careful that we're putting the people at the center of this journey, that it's not a replacement, that it's an assistance to them. But also, I think there's a lot of people who they're just not sure how to use AI safely. It's still really foreign and strange to them. It's like, how do I use it? What do I use it for? How do I trust it? So I think it's part of this cultural change is having that framework in place for safe adoption of AI so people know how to use it, they feel comfortable in it. It's also making sure where maybe you're involving data that you're there's a question around how quickly do you open up or democratize your data or platforms, and can you wait the 3 or 4 years it might take to transform those? It's no. It's you have to work out what are your use cases that generate the most value, and where do you have the most trust, the highest data quality, the best controls in place that ensure that the output from that data, from those models, are trustworthy. Because if you don't have the right data, you don't have the right models, it undermines trust in the process. If you have two people ask the same question and get different answers, then what are you basing your decisions on? You need to
Yeah.
make sure you have this consistency. We're a long way away from persona-driven answers where you have different answers depending on where you work from. But you do want to make sure that where the answers have to be absolutely the same because it's from the same data set to the same people on the same question. So how do you have that consistency? In terms of trust as well, I think we've seen this across the sector in many organizations. AI, for kind of maybe unsensible reasons, has often been tech-led. It's been a technology or a digital-led initiative. And there's very few organizations I've seen where that's been a co-created program with their people teams, with their cultural teams, with their learning and development teams. If you only push on one side, either on your people side or your tech side, you're going to very quickly come up against the constraints of only investing in one side. You have to do it at the same time to get the value out of it. So the trust comes in building it, co-creating it with the organizational teams, showing the value, celebrating your successes, and understanding and trusting the results that come from them.
Amazing. So I'm going to end with one last question here, and this is really advice to the room. What's your honest take on what good preparation looks like before you start, and what really made the difference in any preparation that you've done, or what stood out to you the most?
Yeah, and I think it is happening. AI is there. So you need to understand how do you best prepare for the world as it changes. But I think it's my biggest piece of advice is don't just have an AI strategy with how can we do as much AI as possible. The output cannot just be we have X number of agents or we have X number of prompts. It's how are you going to get your organization to be more efficient and where will it drive most value? If the business cases are there, great, go for it. If you're not, well, what do you need to answer to be able? What questions do you need to ask to get answer to those questions? I think probably most importantly though is this has to be a top-down driven approach. You have to have buy-in from your exec teams, from your board as to what is your organizational focus. It needs to have, even at the start, lightweight governance or controls in place so that you're not trying to catch up with siloed projects and kind of data, like disparate data sources. It's we only have so much time and effort and budget and capacity to invest. Let's make sure we do it where it adds most value. For us, that's in our people. And as we grow that out, it will go into our use cases and longer term into our agentic work.
Yeah, so I love that because that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing now. The story was when AI first approached the market, it was how do we get to it, almost running fast towards it. And then we saw this shift to, wait a minute, what do we need to understand about it? And now that there's so much AI, it needs to be happening exactly as you said, from the top down so that you can understand that posture. Again, when there's so much AI and there's going to be so much more. So it's really knowing the place of that AI. So I love your approach to this, Stephen. I love the way that you're looking at it. It's no doubt just even the conversations that we've had, even outside of this, that you really have an understanding of what it takes to get there and the approach that you need to start with to make sure that it's effective and has intent. So Stephen, thank you again so much for all your time. I know you'll remain on the call here. I think there were some questions that were coming through, and we'll answer those questions here at the end. But as always, Stephen, I love every conversation with you, especially around AI. So I thank you so much for your time today.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure. And I think we amazingly kept the time as well. So,
Yeah, we did. We kept the time. That's usually hard for us. So with this, I'm going to hand it over now to Jan Phillips Adlung. He's going to walk us through, as I talked about at the beginning, what AI looks like, what we're doing with some of our customers as they start to approach their strategies, and some of the innovation that, as we call him, JP has had the luxury of working on with our .org customers. So JP, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck, and hello again to everyone. And thank you, Stephen, as well for the great insights. It was a really interesting discussion. Yeah, my name is Jan-Philipp Adlung. I'm based in Frankfurt, Germany, and I work for the German or German-speaking customers in the ServiceNow.org team as a solution consultant. And I'll take the next, yeah, roughly around 20 minutes to walk through mainly two use cases that I see have a lot of traction right now with my customers in the German market. The first of them being the AI control tower. So, as ServiceNow is the central hub for processes in the organization already, it's also now we are focusing on the question, how can you control and manage and actually also measure the impact that AI is having within your organization, all from one single space within the platform. I think this is something that you should think about right from the beginning, right when you start your journey with AI. And then the second use case, the AI voice agent use case, is focused around, yeah, how can you use AI or AI agents on the voice channel? And I think this is actually a really low-hanging fruit. This is something that I think is relevant for every organization and every nonprofit organization in specific, and is something that is quite easy to set up and that immediately drives value and answers the question, how can you start with deflection on the voice channel? How can you do shift left on the voice channel? Yeah, I'm pretty excited to take you through that in the next couple of minutes. And without further doing, I'd say let's jump into the first use case, the AI control tower. So the AI control tower is basically built on five mostly outcome-driven pillars that are sitting on top of the AI inventory. And the AI inventory is an extension of our CMDB towards AI assets, which yeah, super important nowadays, of course. And the five pillars are consisting of the first one, and I'll get a little bit more into detail into those pillars in the next couple of slides. But just to give you an overview, the first one is discover, basically answers the question, what AI assets, what models, what data sets, and so on do I actually have in my organization? And also, what is there that I maybe not see right now? And that's maybe shadow LLMs or shadow AI, let's call it. Second pillar is govern, and govern is around what maybe also risks are coming, and it's a little bit also what Stephen touched on, what maybe risks are coming into the organization through the use of AI, and how do I deal with those risks? There are certain regulations, certain acts, like, for example, here in Germany or in all of Europe, applicable the EU AI Act, and how do I set up controls and deal with those risks and all of what's coming in this direction with the use of AI. Third one is secure. Secure is about AI access. So with the growing number of AI agents that are there and AI workflows that are in your environment, in your organization, this also, of course, poses the question of which access do the AI agents and AI in general, which access is it having, and what should it have, and how much access should we give it, along with some guardrails as well. And this is also further driven, and there will be much more, I think, innovation in the next couple of months and years following the acquisition that we did with Weather and IGA, third-party provider. So that's on the three, and then we have Observe as well. Observe now is tied to Discover and is more around the question, what not really what's there or what AI assets are there, but how can I track the agents? What is running and is it also running well? So we have the possibility to have live logs traces and live metrics gathered to deliver those informations and observe. And then last but not least, we have measure. And measure is now about measuring the impact that AI is having on your organizations. You probably set up specific goals that you want to reach with the use of AI. And measure is then providing metrics and really evaluating if you reach the ROI that you want to get out of your investment into AI. Let's get a little bit more into the pillars. First one is discover. As I was saying, the goal is here to build a complete inventory, an up-to-date CMDB that's extended by AI assets, being it systems, models, or also prompts. We have over 30 connectors, so spokes that are connecting to third-party AI providers that you might use in your organization, as well as all the other different discovery options to get the AI assets and the data into your CMDB. Then for govern, this is, as I already mentioned, about kind of augmenting or building onto the IRM framework or the govern risk and compliance framework that we already having in ServiceNow, but extending it by or on the specific use case of AI and AI agents. We have regulations like the EU AI Act, like the NISC AI risk management framework that suggests certain controls that you should impose on your organizations to deal with the risks, to mitigate the risks, and to just have an idea on how do you want to answer specific questions that are risk related in terms of the use of AI. And for the AI control tower, you have your central user interface to continuously provide this operational governance and not just with periodic audits. Then again, going into the pillar of secure. Security is like I already mentioned about the access, privileged agent metrics reveal high value access. It's about also setting guardrails to track metrics like sensitive data leaks or prompt injection attempts or model vulnerabilities, for example, to make sure your environment and your organization is secure when it comes to the use of those agents and of AI in general. For observe, it's about runtime evaluation of your agents within the AI control tower with traceability and performance visibility. So it measures AI output in two categories. First, it's quality and then safety. So the overall quality and safety scores are detailed across your AI control tower agents and can then be used to modify as well the value frameworks, performance calculations. Not only say how often an AI system was used, but also how well it was used. And that leads perfectly into the last pillar again, which is measure. And measure is about the visualization summary of all the AI interactions and skills that are being used. It's about track adoption across the enterprise and a centralized dashboard, and to measure the productivity of all your AI products that you use to eventually quantify an ROI and see if or how your AI is used in your organization and if it really satisfies the investment or justifies the investment that you made into it. And that should be already it for the AI control tower part in this limited time that we have today. I want to really emphasize that when you start on your or with your AI journey as an organization, you should always think about what are the risks that might come with this and how can you control those risks and how do you get a holistic view on all the AI that's used in your organization, including shadow AI. yeah, so that should be it. On the AI control tower, just short overview. And then I'd say let's jump into the second use case. We are also prepared a short demo to show you. And I want to start this one out with a short recap of the status quo that probably all of the organizations that I personally speak to are experiencing, which is the phone is still the main point of entry and it's still the bottleneck. And the phone is also a channel that can't be turned off in a way, and also that a lot of people won't turn off because it's still, the voice channel, it's still interacting with the people. It's a human way of interaction, but problems that are coming with it are usually in the organizations that I know of, high call volume because everyone and anyone is calling, being it colleagues, being it relatives, being it clients, patients, whatever type of organizations you are, the phone channel is usually irreplaceable. And with that comes manual processes because you have unstructured data, you have unstructured informations. There are paper notes that you might take when you receive a call. There might be an Excel where you input information and data that you caught from the call. But usually all the processes around a phone channel are pretty manual. And it's a burden for the staff because no matter if it's a nurse, if it's a social worker, whoever, they usually do their job or love their job because they want to work on clients, patients, humans in the end, and not being tied up with answering standardizable inquiries all day on the phone. And lastly, you have the problem of traceability because it's unstructured data. You don't really know what's the content or what the content of the inquiry was. And it's super hard to build up processes from there on. So why now, or why do I see this as a pretty low-hanging fruit when it comes to how to start with AI? And also, why is it not only a tech topic, but it's more of a leadership priority? If you imagine an AI agent, it's able to go on the phone or pick up the call, stay in the line, pick up the call, answer initial questions via FAQs. And for the most important part, it's able to gain up or suck up information in a structured way and assign it or give it to the right person to start to trigger a workflow, and that is driving the efficiency really, really, really strongly in the organization. It also relieves the staff that's not there to talk on the phone constantly, and that's can really focus on working on the patients, the people, the clients, and not being hung up in telephone calls all day. And third of all is controllability. Because it's structured, you can start continuous improvement processes. You can see bottlenecks in your processes and really start with reporting and dashboards and see and continuously improve your processes as an organization. Before we jump and head into the demo, I want to picture the scene that I know takes place in a lot of organizations that I work with. Is it a care home or another kind of organization or institution? It's Monday, early in the morning. The shift of the nurse is already is close to being over, and then a customer or a relative calls in and asks for a bed for a relative, for example. At the same time, you have to kind of manage the handover because your shift is almost done. The new shift is coming. There are two more calls in the line that are still on hold that you can't answer right now. There is, believe it or not, still a thing in Germany, a fax coming in from another patient center, and your bottleneck is just the attention. You can answer everyone at the same time. And key figures here are, roughly around 40% of the working time on the phone is spent with routine queries. We found out that around 6 Minutes on average are there for a standard inquiry, including the callback. And of course, calls come in 24/7, not just when you're there. People are calling all the time. And that's the situation. Yeah, a lot of our customers and the qualified stuff with our customers are experiencing on a day-to-day. And this is what I wanted to target a little bit in the demo for the voice agent. What are we looking at? We have two personas. Myself in a luckily fictional scenario that has a father that's maybe in need of care right now, and I don't know anything about the process. I want to get some insights. I want to ask what options I have. And then on the other side, we have Christina, and Christina is a care counselor. And Christina is happy because she now has a voice agent that's proxying the calls, that's able to provide me some initial help and some initial information on the process. And is also able to pick up all the information that I provide to her and put it in a structured format. So she can then, in the end, go ahead and take her time, maybe before lunch or maybe in the evening, and take a couple of hours, go through all the requests and call the people back and know what's going on, being prepared, coming with the right information into the call and into the consultation in the end. So that's what we're going to be looking at. That's the short demo that I have prepared. I'll let this play and jump in between. But yeah.
Hello, welcome to social.org. I'm an AI assistant, and I'm here to support you. This call may be recorded to help us provide the best possible service. Please take your time. How can I help you today?
Hi, this is JP. My father has suddenly become in need of care, and I'm not really sure where to start. He can no longer manage his everyday life on his own, and we quickly need to find a suitable care solution for him. Can you help me with that?
Sure, I can help you with that. Social.org offers several care options for older adults who can no longer manage everyday life alone. These include daycare centers with structured daily programs, short-term residential stays for up to 8 weeks to give family caregivers a break, and full 24-hour residential care in care homes. Admission to full residential care requires a care grade assessment. Waiting times for residential places are generally 6 to 18 months, so early contact with the elder care admissions team is recommended to find a suitable placement quickly. Would you like me to arrange a consultation for you to discuss the care needs for your father? If so, please provide your name, your callback number, and when you're best reachable.
Yeah, a consultation would be great. My name is Jan Philipp Adlung. The callback number would be 0176 9227856, and best callback time is maybe tomorrow afternoon.
Please hold on while I get that sorted for you. Thank you. I have created your consultation under reference TASK0020033. Our team will be in touch. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so now in under 2 minutes, without disturbing Christina with her work that she's currently doing, I already got the information on of what the process is looking like, roughly coming out of FAQs that might be in the back as knowledge of this AI agent, and the AI agent was able to pick up on the information that I give him, and now I present it to Christina in a structured way, which could look like this. So this is now a workspace where the information or the request, the callback task that was getting created is running into. And good thing here is it's already in Christina's inbox. So this is the filtered list that might display a short description summarizing the inquiry, the name of the caller, phone number, of course, is important, and also a preferred callback time. And it's already with the right person because if I skip a little bit further, not that far. Because the agent, the AI voice agent, of course, was able to know what the content of the call was and give a short description and give it an assignment group. So it's about elderly care. So the assignment group obviously should be elderly care. The case type is nursing home, and thereby already assign it to the correct person or the correct group, which is something that we see quite often as well. That if you use the phone channel, you usually someone is calling, and you never end up at the right person or the right person group. You usually have to need to get transferred a couple of times until you're with the person who can actually answer your question. And this is mitigated with that, of course, because we got all the information and it's immediately sitting with the right person. Me as Christina or I as Christina can do my work in a structured way. And whenever I sort myself the time to, maybe it's around lunchtime, I take 2 hours and go through all the requests. And I'm able to prepare for what's being asked and for the individual call or the individual request, and work it off in a structured way. And this is only the kind of the starting point of it all, right? Because from here on, now you have the structured information, and from here on, now you can go ahead and get more workflow started or get more agents involved into that. You can drag in third-party systems to maybe look up, is there a bed available already? And can I get this information into the process, and so on. But this already is providing a lot of value and increasing the efficiency of the operations by quite a bit. So that's it for the short demo. I still wanted to give you a little bit of a look into the curtains or behind the curtains in how do you set up such an agent? Because it's actually not that complicated. It's only kind of 3 steps, which the first one being, okay, who is your agent? We as ServiceNow provide out of the box agents. If they're not working, you just choose the one that's this most similar to what you want to achieve, and you tell it, who are you? What should you do? What are the steps to get there? It's all backed by LLMs, so it's not scripted, it's not deterministic. It's just, hey, this is your role as a social org service advisor, for example. It's what you should do. Then you have the tools and the tool set that you give it. For example, hey, look something up or connect to an MCP server, track information from somewhere else. Book the consultation task, and get the information into a structured case. And then it's testing, because you obviously want to make sure that the voice agent is working like it's supposed to be working before you end up releasing it. And yeah, that's basically it. And to wrap it up, what's the benefits? What is the impact of that? Up to 70% decrease in manual effort. Obviously, the agent is available 24/7. There's zero idle time between the call and the ticket that's being created, and all of the calls are being captured. So not only do you know, or you can answer every call similar or at the same time, you also know what's the content of the call, what's being asked, and can start reporting on that, and you can start augmenting your processes and adapting your processes to whatever you see the trend is going when it comes to your requirers. Okay, so without further doing, I'm finished with my part. Thank you all for the attention, and I think I'll head it back to Chuck for some Q&A.
Yeah, amazing, JP. So thank you, everyone. We're going to take a couple of the questions. I know we've got about 5 minutes left. JP, I'm going to start with you, actually. I know you just finished, but there was some chat going around as you were giving your demo, and some of the feedback that we saw was, to quote Raymond, you mean this is AI chat. So can you expand a little bit more? I know we use this technology in chat, but this is really voice agent as well. So it's going a step beyond, correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I was thinking about how can you demo a voice agent. It's a little bit complicated because it's obviously not visually. So this is why I created this short template where I put the transcript in from the agent discussion. I hope it was hearable. I think you could
Yes,
hear
it was.
Good.
Yeah.
So no, this can be deployed. So you basically plug it into your into your CAAS, so your telephony system, or you can also use the ServiceNow app actually to speak to it just like you would with ChatGPT, for example, and yeah, deploy the agent in that channel. So yeah, it's basically got all the benefits that a chat agent would have, but it's on the voice channel, so it's speaking only.
Amazing. Thank you. Kashan, I'm going to hand over to you. I know we've got a couple questions out there, and I think we've got time for a couple. So feel free to fire away.
Thanks, Chuck. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So we've had a couple of questions come in the Q&A that are directed at Save the Children, or more explicitly, Stephen. I'm going to start with one that speaks about AI in your daily operations. And more importantly, how do you actually use AI in your daily operations? Did you develop any workflow for your daily operations using AI, and how AI can help you with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should recognize that at the start. I mean, I should have said this earlier. It's like our charities, non-profits are not predominantly data or development organizations. They're not software development organizations. They have that capability, but the capacity isn't the same as a huge multinational corporation that specializes in areas. You have to work within the capabilities that you have and work out where the most value is. And some of the things that we're doing right now with ServiceNow is how do we support our operations teams? So how can we build into our processes and our platforms a way that reinforces the behaviors that we want to see, and some of the higher value add work we want to see? So we're looking at how does this support us on our incident management? How do we look for patterns or trends and link kind of call drivers to maybe automated playbooks or other work that can redirect people to self-serve? So how do we get people towards knowledge-based articles? How do we start hooking into connectors into kind of common fulfillment requests for maybe access to Microsoft 365 type services? A lot of what we're looking to do is not to remove the ability for people to speak to someone in our teams, but it's to actually remove the need to wait to speak to someone in those teams. So why do you need to wait to the next day to maybe get access to a distribution list or a mailbox, when actually you can have a workflow that meets the preset criteria that will do that, not quite automatically, but you will just need a single approval at the end of that chain. So these things are things that we're looking at doing. We haven't got in place at the moment, but I hope to have in the near future. And all of these things we don't want to just run workflows or AI workflows in isolation. It's how do they all join together to give a single improved user experience? And we can talk about that as kind of employee journeys. So the true value for us will be when we can use like an autonomous agent, or where people can just ask a question and then it'll pull together different workflows. So as you build out that agent, you build that trust, you build out its value. But we have some way to go on that journey so far. We have a lot of priorities right now.
Thanks, Stephen. That actually lends itself really nicely to the next question. How are you thinking about impact evaluation? And I'll tee this up a bit more with context. Even something as simple as time saved. And they, the person asking this said they find that people over or underestimate this a lot. Any thoughts?
Yeah, and I think I think a big part of this, there's a few different ways I could answer this, but I think the way I'm going to go with is this isn't necessarily a tech decision, right? So technology isn't there to tell the organization or business area the value of their proposition or how important it is. Maybe we can help with the total cost of ownership or considerations for this. Well, who owns that process? So if it's a process is going to help with fundraising or programmatic work, there's not many things that are going to be AI cost of value alone. So what is that piece of work supporting? So presumably there was already an initiative to, increase engagement or to reach more beneficiaries. And once you have that plan, that initiative or use case, well, if that's your priority, how can AI support that or accelerate that? How can we use agents, or how can we use the ability to get kind of better data-driven decisions there to bring that outcome? So I think where many organizations have failed or not been as successful is where AI has been the target, whereas actually it's been the distraction. We need to make sure what is the initiative, what is the priority, okay, now we can use AI to help support some of that. Machine learning and automation, after all, has been around for some time now. That hasn't changed. Yeah, it's how you use it that counts.
I might steal that tagline, AI is a distraction. Thank you, Stephen. I've got one last question, and it's just around the journey that Save the Children have been on. Could you elaborate a little bit about, what that's looked like for Save the Children? Is it built on ITSM, CRM, HR? And what is the actual usage of ServiceNow? What specific cases do you see them covering using AI?
We've been a long time customer of ServiceNow, and we have massively underutilized the platform. I think we put in a process that did a lot of what we needed at the time, and it did it well enough that we then invested in other areas. But we're barely scratching the surface of what it can do. And I think one thing that we're looking at now is we are being asked to deliver more value, become more efficient, to deliver a more customer-centric service at the same time as we're seeing our capacity reduced. So how do we address that? And one of the best ways to do that now it's what I love about some of the AI tooling or process or workflows that are coming up is that it is customer centric. It can help our employees resolve their issues faster. It can free up our engineers so they're working on the higher value work, that actually they're spending less time with administrative tasks, whether it's creating knowledge base articles or writing responses or even creating tickets in some cases. We can build that into the workflow so people get involved and engaged when they add the most value.
Thanks, Stephen. We look forward to working further with you on that.
Can I answer one more question? I saw one more question in the chat that I'd really like to address, and it's something that I didn't cover before, but AI has absolutely the power to transform the world for our beneficiaries. We do it in the right way. We can help the people who need it most as long as we find the right use cases. Now, there was a question about kind of disasters or responding to conflict, and as anyone in humanitarian or disaster response knows, the most important thing or the most important aspect is time. So the faster that you can respond to a situation, the faster that those in the region can respond and not have to wait for someone to come support, that can be transformational. And there's some kind of more well-known use cases around how do you get evidence research-backed models available in local language so that in the event of an emergency, say a flood has wiped out an entire community's crops or food source, instead of having to wait 1 or 2 weeks to get access to an expert who can understand their local requirements and language, there's a model there that can do that almost instantaneously. That's the difference between saving a crop and feeding a community and losing that. So these are the things that can truly transform. And more locally, maybe in the UK, we're seeing a lot of charities working on kind of automated kind of call centers. So their ambition, their aim is to reach as many people as possible. And they can do that through AI assistants. They can do that initial triage. They can get help to those who need it most. So sorry, I wanted to get that in at the very end because I'm very passionate about that. And I was very focused on general, but yes, whoever asked the question, the transformational power is not in organizations necessarily becoming more efficient. It's in serving their beneficiaries and those who need it most better, more, helping them serve themselves.
Thanks, Stephen. I agree with Roberto Ramirez. That was a great example. Thank you so much. Chuck, I'm going to hand it back over to you and Aaron to close us out.
Yeah, thank you, Kashan. And thank you to Stephen, JP, Henrik, Jan, Julia, who's all running behind the scenes. And then a big thank you to the NetHope team for continuing this partnership with us and allowing us to have this forum to speak to the community. Aaron, I know there's still a lot of questions out there. Maybe we can get those questions and try to get some of these answers back to the attendees. Otherwise, I would ask that you please connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with myself, the rest of the .org team, and then certainly Stephen from Save the Children, so that we can continue these conversations and continue this thought leadership. So, Aaron, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to the full ServiceNow and Save the Children team for answering all these questions. Thank you all for attending and such amazing questions. The recording, and we can also add some contact information for the panelists today will be up on the NetHope website so that we can get more of those questions answered. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us for another 5 more minutes as we got some of those last questions answered. We really appreciate you joining, and hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.